We know that she was nervous, and on top of that, she had me to worry about. That was amazing.
I hung all of my medals on the shelf that my dad made me.
She was coming into her own. Then the pandemic shut her gym down. Her parents contracted COVID, and she lost an aunt and uncle to the virus.
It was hard, but I feel like when I come into the gym, it kind of helps me forget about everything because the gym is like my safe place.
What have you learned about yourself in the last year?
I'm a pretty strong person. I've gone through so much, and I still manage to get through it every time.
Kate Snow, NBC News, St. Paul, Minnesota.
And a late note from Tokyo, Team USA swimmer Caleb Dressel won his first individual Olympic gold medal, setting an Olympic record in the men's 100-meter freestyle. The world champion also has 3 Olympic gold medals in relay races, so a decent games so far. Coming up, an awkwardly hilarious moment today for the British Prime Minister.
See who's managing what project, your team's progress, and upcoming deadlines so you can build scalable processes to align your team. You'll never have to chase teammates for updates again or be concerned that anything or anyone is falling through the cracks. Over 127,000 customers use Monday.com WorkOS to structure how they work. Whether you need a bird's eye view of this quarter's goals or a breakdown of internal requests, Monday.com enables you to build any work software you need. Don't wait to give your team an easy way to gain visibility into goals, work, and progress together. If you want your team to be more effective than ever, visit monday.com/podcast and start your free trial today. That's monday.com/podcast.
The last thing before we go tonight, the latest in the ongoing saga of world leaders versus umbrellas. Today, it was UK Prime Minister Boris Johnson, seen in a video that's now gone viral, struggling to open one in such a way as it would actually keep the rain off during an event in soggy Staffordshire, Britain. Even Prince Charles, as you can see, appears amused as Bojo battled the winds and his bumbershoot refused to cooperate. You might remember the twice impeached former guy had his own ordeal with an umbrella back in October 2018. He finally just gave up, leaving it for someone else to fetch at the doorway of Air Force One. And that is our broadcast for this Wednesday night, with our thanks for being with us. On behalf of all my colleagues at the networks of NBC News, good night.
Okay. Well, yeah, I was gonna actually ask if you wanted them to even do it. No, because you read about how Tylenol can lessen the effectiveness of shots. But if you've already talked to him, then okay. Okay. All right. That works then. And I wasn't necessarily against it, but I wanted to talk to you first. But sounds like you're already on it. So that's all I had. Yeah, I remember. Yeah, I figured she'd be fussy today. She actually was fine dropping her off. We had to wait for a second for somebody to come to the door. So I guess they were in the middle of chapel. But she was all smiles and just looking around then. But I figured it would set in at some point today. Okay. Alright. Well, love you too. Bye.
Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. With our privacy and security features, you can block robocalls and...
We enter the bottom of the third inning. Indianapolis 0, the Cardinals 0. The Cardinals are now...
Jim, our next question sent to cornydrivethrue@gmail.com from Jamie in Pennsylvania. Let me just check here the email address. No, not Jamie Ward, a different Jamie.
Is that Jamie Ward?
No, a less famous Jamie from Pennsylvania. But nothing against him personally. But here's his question.
No, he's a but nothing against him.
On October 14th, 1986, Magnum TA had his near-fatal car accident that ended his professional wrestling career. Starrcade 86 happened on November 27th of that year, just 44 days later. With the annual Starrcade being arguably the biggest and most important show of the year for Crockett Promotions, I had a few questions about the card. Was Magnum penciled in to face Ric Flair for the heavyweight title at Starrcade 86? If that was the case, do you think Dusty would have had Flair drop the belt to Magnum that night? Or would the title switch, if it was going to happen, wait until the program was heated up even further? If Magnum doesn't have the car accident and goes into a program with Flair, would Dusty step into the U.S. title picture and have a feud with Nikita over the championship? If it was Magnum challenging Flair for the belt, what other changes to the Starrcade lineup would have happened? And lastly, if it was not supposed to be Magnum facing Flair at Starrcade for whatever reason, possibly one last big match with Nikita that night, who would have gotten the main event for the NWA World title?
Is that all? Just 18 questions?
That's all.
Okay, first of all, I've always heard, while we didn't obviously sit down, I didn't go into Dusty's office, hey Dusty, now the Magnum's, hey, your best friend in the world has had this horrible wreck. How's it changing your plans? What were you going to do? But we always thought, heard, assumed, I'm pretty sure that it was a safe bet that Magnum was going to be the challenger for Flair that night for the title. I would be incredibly surprised if it changed hands the first time. Because, well, Magnum had a couple of house show matches at that point with Flair, right? Didn't they do, they did, oh God, that the Three River Stadium in Pittsburgh in the rain. Wasn't that Flair and Magnum in 85?
I'm not certain off the top of my head.
I think they went almost an hour at an outdoor show in a rainstorm. But anyway, I would have been surprised if he won the title that night simply because the money there would have been in the chase. But I think that was the idea, to start out with a Sting star-making performance with Flair, where, you know, something would happen and Magnum didn't get the belt, but it looked like he should have, because that was Dusty's style. And they could have milked that to the 87 Great American Bashes, or whenever, you know, Dusty wanted to do it. I think what he said there, the other Jamie, is probably a good bet that it would have been Dusty and Nikita for the U.S. title, because Dusty still needed to be figured in near the top. And honestly, I got to say, when you think of it, God, Starrcade 86 with Flair and Magnum, Dusty and Nikita for the U.S. title, Midnight and Road Warriors for the scaffold, probably be stronger than what we got. Because the Flair and Nikita was anticlimactic at that point, because they had done that over the previous year numerous times, including the 85 Great American Bash in Charlotte.
Although this is the first time with the roles reversed and Flair is the heel and Nikita is the babyface.
Well, yeah, but I don't know that they would have reversed those roles with obviously with Nikita had been a heel up until, you know, the accident with Magnum. So I'm pretty sure that probably it would have been that way had Magnum not had that accident.
So you don't think he gets the title, but you think he gets the match with Flair and something happens that leads to a series of matches, and maybe later he gets the title.
Yes, because here's the look at all of these Starrcades that Dusty was responsible for. A lot of the money involved was the rematches in the buildings, in the house shows afterwards, because in those days before pay-per-view, it was closed circuit. So yes, Starrcade 86 between Atlanta and Greensboro had 30,000 people, and the closed circuit added another 30,000. But that was for the real dedicated fans. When we followed up the scaffold match in a number of the markets in January, well, some in December and some in January, after Starrcade, Philadelphia at the Civic Center sold completely out and did the all-time record Crockett Gate there, $166,000, had raised ticket prices. There was a variety of those, so, and the Flair Nikita rematches and etc. So it was almost like the post-WrestleMania tour, WrestleMania Revenge tour, where they used to go and give the people live in the arenas the matches that they had seen on the big show. Dusty was booking rematches for the different towns from Starrcade into January. And that would just been the start of Flair and Magnum in the Carolinas. My God, you would have had to beat the people away with fucking clubs. It would have been a lot hotter than, even though the turn with Nikita was a surprise and it got over, and you know everybody was obviously dumbfounded about what happened to Magnum. But if they'd actually gone through with Magnum and Flair at that point in time on top in all of those towns, the way Magnum had been protected and as fresh as a matchup it would have been one-on-one for the title in most of those places, they would have done sellouts till the summer in the Carolina towns and the core cities.
This would have changed Starrcade. Tully Blanchard would need an opponent if Dusty was working with Nikita instead of Tully. And not that this leads into my next question, but if all of this happens, if this is the scenario, and Magnum gets the match, doesn't get the title, we get this program, when do you think, if you do think, Dusty brings in Barry Windham?
Oh, because, well, I don't know that he would have. Because BW came in, what, January, February of '87, not long after Magnum's accident?
I think so. I mean, I remember him and Ron Garvin early '87, yeah. Because
Dusty knew that even though Nikita was over, it wasn't the same kind of, he wasn't filling the same spot. Dusty needed his young babyface, perennial world title contender that he could put in that spot where he could always fucking challenge for the world title, didn't necessarily have to win it. A completely different babyface from Dusty, who was the working man's hero and kind of the hero for everybody. He needed that young. He had Nikita was a great character babyface, gimmick babyface. You wouldn't think that the Russian Nightmare should be a babyface. That's what made him a great gimmick babyface. But you need the young guy. And so the reason why that he called, because that was supposed to be Barry's spot to begin with, and Barry left and went to Vince shortly after Dusty started in Carolina's booking. So that's when he got Magnum from Mid-South, who he'd known since Florida in '83, Terry Allen. He gives Magnum that push. If Magnum was still there, he wouldn't have called Barry back.
You think Steamboat leaves if Magnum... I'm trying to remember the timeline. Magnum came in before Steamboat left. No, no, he didn't, now that I think about it.
No, but also Steamboat wasn't... Dusty wouldn't have considered Steamboat the young guy to fill that spot, because Steamboat had been in the Carolinas for, 84? He'd been there for 7 years.
I can't see a scenario where Dusty knows... I shouldn't say no, where Dusty books Steamboat well.
It wasn't that he didn't respect Steamboat's ability, but he wasn't one of Dusty's guys that Dusty brought in, and Dusty hadn't been there to see Steamboat's history in the Carolinas, and it wasn't his sports car, so he wasn't going to drive it all the time. That doesn't mean that it couldn't run. But anyway, that's the thing. You can never tell for sure what would have happened if so-and-so hadn't left and gone somewhere else, or so-and-so hadn't got hurt and couldn't fill that spot or whatever. But that was the whole deal. The reason why Magnum had been there for the previous year and a half was to be built up as the future babyface NWA champion, so that Dusty could move into the Babe Ruth role. And Barry, the matches between Windham and Flair were 5 times as good as the matches that would have been between Flair and Magnum, because Barry was, at that year, probably one of the best, if not the best in the business. But they didn't draw what Magnum and Flair would have drawn, because they didn't have the year and a half build that had been suddenly yanked out from under the thing. So Magnum and Flair would have been probably the biggest money single program of 1987. if they'd have had it.
Indianapolis 0, the Cardinals 0. The Cardinals are leading off in this inning with the last batter in their lineup. Adam Wainwright will lead off the inning. Ground ball going between shortstop and third. Out, one away. Wainwright grounds to third and is retired. Rocco Mondelli got a single in his last at bat. This is his third at bat of this game.
We have, of course, questions from the listeners here, Jim, and one that surprisingly has been a popular topic sent to us via email and on Twitter multiple times since Friday on SmackDown. Did you see the latest? I guess now he's just Baron Corbin again, right? He's not King Corbin. The latest Baron Corbin promo. Of course, we reviewed a script from SmackDown last week where he was talking about how within a week of losing his crown he was about to have his house foreclosed, and his mortgage was late, and everything has gone wrong in that week.
Well, you asked me if I've seen the latest Baron Corbin promo, and the answer to that would be the same if you'd asked me, have you ever seen a Baron Corbin promo? No, I have not, because... And now he's not even the Possum King anymore. Who's the Grand Marshal of the Possum Day Parade without Baron Corbin? But no, I didn't see the promo. Should I have seen a Baron Corbin promo? You're telling me this?
You know, people were sending this in, and I thought they were sending it because it was so bad you had to see it. But then I started watching it, I was like, wow, this is really something. He's really committed to this. It just happens to be in the silly, stupid world of Vince McMahon's WWE on this stupid show. But I'd like to play you some of this. Feel free to jump in and...
Okay, wait, can we do this? Or this is fair use and a repertorial.
That's right. We're going to review this.
We're going to review this. All right. Well, if it's this good, then we'll have to hear it.
Okay. Well, let's go to some of this audio now. This is from SmackDown. I believe the interviewer's name is Kayla, confronting Baron Corbin sitting backstage. He's wearing a buttoned-up shirt, but it's open to mid-chest. He's grown out his hair on his sides. Of course, he's bald on top, so it's just... It looks like an old-fashioned bald guy. It's actually refreshing to see.
He doesn't look like Baron von Raschke anymore. He looks like that game you used to have when we were kids where you took the lead shavings with the magnet and put it in various points on the bald guy's
Oh, come
head.
on. That's awful.
Okay, go ahead. All right.
And by the way, when I said last time about Danny Burch, how I'd use him on my roster, but I didn't want too many bald guys, to anyone that was wondering, I meet too many guys with the shaved heads. I'll take all the bald guys you want as long as they're old-school bald. The classic bald man.
Classic bald.
Not the Steve Austin shaved head. I'm only allowing one of them on my roster. But anyway, here's Kayla Braxton with a dejected Baron Corbin. Jim, feel free to interrupt and stop this with anything you have to say, because you've been... Surprisingly, this is the one feud and the one character you've kind of seen a lot over the last couple of years.
I mean, if I really need to explain it to you, I will. Look, when I was a king, my paycheck was like $20,000 a week. Every single week, that's what I got. And so you start getting these monster
Wait
paychecks.
a minute already. Hold on. He couldn't even tell the truth, because we know that even the mid-card guys now are overpaid there, but he's expecting us to believe he was making $1 million a year, and now he's been off his throne for 6 weeks, and he's in a bad way. All right, go ahead.
Again, he had the crown, but let's go back to Mr. Corbin here.
Now I can get $1 million house. Now I can get the truck I want. Now I get the car I want. Then you get the jewelry. And you start buying these things because this 20 grand is coming in every single week and you're living large. And now at the end of the month, you have $60,000 in bills. You have taxes. You try to put a little bit in investments. And I bought into Bitcoin when it was $62,000 a share. And now it's at 30. And I borrowed some money to buy that. So
you got something to say?
Stop, wait. So now he's broke because he's an idiot and doesn't know how to handle his money, and for some reason he thought that this 20 grand a week supposedly was going to go on forever. Did he never look in a mirror? Are there no mirrors in his home? Has he never watched one of his matches back? He should have been more shocked he got 20 grand one week than he was getting 20 grand every week. $1 million house, cars, jewelry. I bet he didn't even use our code when he ordered his magic spoon. That we're supposed to feel sorry for Bitcoin? Are we supposed to feel sorry for this financial incompetent.
And he even had to borrow money to do that. But let's go back to
that was a good line.
The sad downward spiral of Baron Corbin.
All of a sudden, all these bills catch up, and then I lose the crown, right? With the crown came that money. Now, I can't even say with pride what my weekly check is. It doesn't cover the payment on one of my vehicles. Now they've taken 3 or 4. My wife is, disappointed is the word. It's embarrassing. I have to go home to this, and I just don't have the income coming in or the luck to even try to turn it around. So when you fall hard, it's fast.
Well, we have more, but I'll stop it there.
Are they doing this tongue in cheek? He's supposed to be a heel because he's obviously a clueless putz, and his wife is on. He hasn't, again, he hasn't been unemployed for 6 weeks or not been the. Also, are we expecting to believe that the contract he signed with the company, they were paying him more when he was the king, but now they're not paying him nearly that much, even though he's on the same contract, because everybody's smart? There's a lot of holes in his story, ain't there, Brian?
I have to say, though, all things being equal, he's doing a good job. You're not seeing this. He is just staring straight ahead like everything has gone wrong. He's doing a good job with this material. He's actually, considering they're giving him this material,
can't polish a
he's
turd.
doing good. You can't.
You can't polish a turd, nor can you pick one up by the clean end.
But it's his turd. I think that's the point. He's not picking up someone else's. He's picking up his own, so he doesn't.
He's taking that generic turd that was laid there by some unknown member of the writing staff, and he's taking care of it. He's feeding it. He's watering it. He's giving it to Biddy. And then,
No, go ahead, please.
He's giving it to Biddy. And then it's going to grow up to be the all-time record-breaking turd. It'll be at least 120 Courics.
Well, let's go back to this turd. There's some more left. Again, Kayla Braxton interviewing Baron Corbin backstage, a dejected Baron Corbin.
Well, once you hit rock bottom, the only way to go is up. So good luck, okay?
Say rock bottom, but it just seems like things keep getting worse. What is rock bottom? Who decides what's the bottom of all this? Seriously, you go, okay, today is Friday, and I woke up in Cleveland, and I'm going, how much worse can it get? And I can't afford, a couple of eggs, and then,
Get Sheila.
I didn't have a can opener, so I just banged the can on the sidewalk until it opened, and then I had some, but I spilled it. Do you know how to get stains out of dress shirts?
I will actually personally help you do that. Baron, thanks for chatting with us. And
you're done. You're going to bring up all this painful stuff, and then you're just going to leave.
Back to the studio. So I'm going to toss it back to you guys.
I have to say, that was great. I like that. I watched it. I thought it was great.
He's got to be a lot of fun at parties.
You know what? He must be. He's clearly acting here, and he's nailing it. You have to see this. He looks like the character he's talking like. What they do with it, they'll mess it up somehow. It'll get really bad. But this is actually really good, I think. I'm more interested in SmackDown lately than I have been in a long time, just based on certain things and how good Roman and Heyman are. And then you see how good Roman and Heyman are, and of course Baron Corbin and his backstage.
Right, now wait a minute, you had me. I'm thinking Cena's back, Reigns, Heyman, and then Baron Corbin. Now maybe we can monitor SmackDown. We don't have to go through the whole thing. We'll just monitor, see what happens.
This Seaside Verbo is about to play
Google Fi, a phone plan by Google. Our privacy and security features help keep your information.
There we go, Tom.
Pulled inside. The fielder is under it. One away. Burke flies out in the foul territory. Next up, Williams. He's behind in the count. Just outside, caught looking. Strikeout. That's a strike. He swung on it, and he battled back. Going to right field. Foul. Swings and misses. He's gone. One run, one hit, no errors. We enter the bottom of the ninth inning. Indianapolis won the Cardinals. Timeout. Indianapolis are putting in a new pitcher. Shibuya, here's another pitching change. It's a strike. Pulled inside. One away. Ryan Barton got a double in his last at bat. He already has 5 homers in July. There's the first pitch, and it's a strike. He put that first pitch right in there. Count 2-1. Here's the 2-1 pitch. It's a strike. Count 2-2. Here's the 2-2 pitch. Swings and misses. He's gone. We are now down to the final out for this game. Our next batter is Skip Shoemaker. It's a strike. He put that first pitch right in there. Too low. Ball. Count 1-1. Ground ball straight to the second baseman. Out. And that's the ball game. Now for the highlights of today's game. The winning pitcher is Hermida. Won his 3rd game this season. The losing pitcher is Wainwright. His 11th loss this season. Shibuya